Wuthering Waves so far has had updates and stories that had a universally agreed upon estimated rating, meaning that the majority agreed on one final take. For example, majority agreed that 1.0 was not great, but 2.0 was amazing, but I won't go into the details here. With the 2.5 version recently releasing, their best story in the game in my opinion so far, this is the first that sparked a lot more discussion and debate on a number of topics, and more importantly, the first that's been very divided for multiple reasons. Before we get into it, let me know what you guys thought about the story, and keep in mind to stay civil and respectful in the comments. Now, without further ado, let's talk and debate about Phrolova's tragic, heart-wrenchingly beautiful story. First, let's talk about Phrolova's sorry at the end. Who was it addressed to? I think there are three options, one more likely than the other two, but the first one, the one that's most likely in my opinion, is the villagers, right? Her family, her friends, for not being able to actually resurrect them in the real world. I think this is the most likely because of the way the scene was portrayed. That's the vibe I got from her playing the violin and apologizing there. But the other two options are valid as well. The second option I feel is it being addressed to Rover for blaming them, because logically they were at fault, right? And although that promise meant a lot to Phrolova, she was already desperate by then, and plus there could be many reasons why Rover did what they did. As Phrolova said herself, she can't even imagine what drove Rover to that extreme to wipe their memories, right? So yeah, it's interesting. There's a third option as well that could be possible, although I don't really see this one as having a high chance, but she could have just apologized to those she killed directly or indirectly along the way, you know, those she had to trample upon to achieve her goal. Although I don't really think that's the case. It is a possibility. Again, I think the most likely option is the villagers. But who knows? Let me know what you guys think. Rover's promise was actually fulfilled by witnessing her final composition with The Lost Beyond. In my opinion, at least, it was just a bit too late, right? But even if you don't think that's the case, we can't really blame Rover that much. Firstly, although there are theories, we don't exactly know why Rover erased their memories yet, right? And then secondly, that was past Rover's decision and mistake if we think it's a mistake, not current Rover's, right? Because I've seen a lot of people just hating on Rover for not fulfilling the promise, but I feel like it depends on what you think your like final composition is, right? Because if you think about it, her final composition might not even be the one she did with The Lost Beyond, right? She might even go further beyond in the future. Hopefully, I mean, I would love to see more, but we'll see. Now, let's get into the juicy part, which is the clashes between Phrolova's and Rover's ideals. Phrolova wants to save her village, friends, family, and the past, no matter the cost or the method, while Rover wants to save the world. They want to free humanity as a whole from the lament. They want to save the future. This quest was so brilliant precisely because of these clashes in their ideals, and it was the first time we saw the negative consequences of Rover's actions, which is losing some people in the process of saving the majority. But we also have to remember what Phrolova was exactly doing, right? Which is basically the opposite, saving the minority at the expense of the majority. Which is also why Rover said that line about Phrolova not understanding the true value of life. I've seen many people disagree with that line, but personally I don't think it's necessarily wrong. In the first place, I think many people need to know that it's not about which one of them is right or wrong. It's more about which one's ideals are more compelling to you. It's about which road you would take if you were placed in a similar story and environment. Would you save your friends and family no matter what? Or abandon all your memories and bonds for a better chance to save the world, which may or may not include your family and friends, right? The only problem is that, again, we don't really know much about Rover's side, meaning Frolova's argument has more support. But we can't really get Rover to fight back since they are not their old self, right? So naturally they don't know, they don't remember. That's also why I love that in the story as well. Rover couldn't really jab back in the philosophical battle, because it's like fighting for someone who died thousands of years ago. You can't possibly know what they were thinking in detail. Personally, I always prefer characters who sacrifice the world for their love, friends and family. I find it more romantic, that's why I was drawn towards Phrolova more. But at the same time, I understood why Rover did what they did. The current Rover was portrayed very well throughout the story as well. From their perspective, they met Phrolova as the overseer of Phrolova, who did a few bad things that Rover had experienced firsthand, right? Then Rover found out about Phrolova's motives, her past, etc. And they disagree precisely because they are their current self, not their past one. Because I think the past Rover might have agreed with Phrolova on some things, but current Rover also can't 100% trust her because of what they know of Exodus so far. Which is also very interesting because as we all will find out more about the Frexodus, our perspectives might change. Lastly, I want to talk about their dynamic and their bond or relationship as a whole. I love their dynamic. They were both sassy and cheeky towards each other, poking jabs throughout the story. And I've seen some people say their dynamic was as if they were exes, which I found funny, but personally I felt it was similar to their first meeting, which was a magical meeting with perfectly matching chemistry, while the present was magical but perfectly opposite. And that also shows just how much that memory vibe changed Rover, in my opinion. Overall, as for whether the memory vibe was justified, we'll see in the future, but I love the story because it didn't justify Phrolova's actions, yet it sympathized with her reasons, without redeeming her. It was truly beautiful and it's my favorite story in Wuthering Waves to date. If I had to rate it, I would give it a 9.9, only because the Order of the Deep wasn't as fleshed out as I would have liked. I would have liked to see Phoebe involved in some way, with her finding out about the truth, etc. But I think they might do more with that later, and it was still great with just Fenrico. So yeah. Oh, and the music was simply peak as always. I mean, bro. I'm really excited for what's next, but anyways, that's all from me. Let me know what you all think in the comments. Subscribe if you enjoyed the vid. Stay healthy and see you later. Ciao.